Hi friends and welcome back to another video on this channel. Just a note before I even start talking about what this video is about. Like currently there are 125 subscribers. Like over 100 human beings really just watched any video of mine and decided to stick around and subscribe. I mean that just I know it's not like a big deal, but it feels like a big deal. Like how like I just cannot wrap my head around how this is even possible, how this even happened, like, and I cannot begin to express even how happy that makes me, how thankful I am that so many people just chose to stick around and like um yeah, it's beyond me. So I sincerely am so thankful. Thank you so much for watching and for commenting and liking and whatever you do, even if you just watch silently. I do that a lot of the times as well. And just for being here, for just being here, thank you so much. I cannot even wrap my head around how that even. I can talk about it all day, saying how happy, how joyful I am because of it, and how thankful I am. Like how. Anyway, but I'm not gonna talk your ears off. I just wanna say thank you. That's all. Anyway, for today's video, it's the end of June, and so we are at the mid-year check-in point, and so I watch a lot of these. It's like a booktube staple at this point, this mid-year freakout tag, and I was like, I'm gonna do it this year. So I have my journal here. I'm not gonna show you because then I would be spoiling you the answers. Although it's very gloomy, so maybe the lighting is kind of bad. But like my question is, when hasn't it been bad in my videos? Anyway, okay, the first book, without delay. The first question is the best book of this year, and I cannot help but give this book as the answer, and that is Breasts and Eggs by Mieko Kawakami. I listened to this as an audiobook, and I'm not going to go into too much detail because I have spoken about this book already in my wrap up video that I posted earlier. So I'm not gonna, repeat myself too much and bore you. And also, there's construction going on, so there's always construction going on. Like, no matter where I live, there's always construction going on. I hope it's not too distracting for you. So, yeah, Breasts and Eggs by Mieko Kawakami. This is written originally in Japanese and was translated to English, obviously. Oh my god, it's actually distracting. It's even distracting me. Okay, they stopped. I'm going to take the opportunity. So we're following three women in Japan, two sisters and one of the sisters' daughter. Just following their journey, and one of the sister is like fully obsessed with her looks, especially her breasts. She wants to get an breast augmentation, and she's obsessed with the color of her nipple, to the minutest detail. The other sister wants to have a child, and she's never been interested in being in relationships or sex or like. So she's not going to conceive the regular way. She is looking into donors and to conceive through IVF. And the daughter of the other sister who's obsessed with her looks, she's also dealing with her own stuff. Like, they're not doing well off monetarily. So she's like, why was I even born? I'm like a burden on my mother. If only my mother did not have a child, like she wouldn't have to work so much and kind of toil so much for like bare minimum. You're just following these three women, and through them you kind of, I would say it's an exploration of what it means to live as a woman in current day. That's what I got from it. There were conversations in it that I thought was very, thought provoking, and I just it felt like this book was written for me. You know how you get that feeling sometimes? That was the best book I've read all year. I'm talking at length again. I've already talked about it. So yeah, the next question is the best sequel I have read so far this year, and that is A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. This is the sequel to the first book, The Monk and the Robot series, and this is just this. Also, I talked about on my wrap up as well as in my 24-hour readathon video, because that is the video in which I read this book. My God, it's everything. It's everything. The conversations, the topics that they kind of explore, and the world. I would love to live in it. I would love to live in this world. Please take me to that world. I don't want to be here. and it's just that good. It's, oh my god, and the series is so short. I think everybody should read it. You have to read it. Okay, moving on. I didn't even tell you what this is about. You have this character Dex, and they are a team monk, wherein they basically just kind of set up camp in a city. They kind of roam around. So every time they go to a city, they set up camp, and people come to them talking about, whatever is weighing their mind, weighing on their heart, and they just listen to them and give them advice, like a friendly, almost like a therapist, but like low key. And they make them tea, and it's like provide them with comfort and maybe some advice and solutions. That's their job. And they're going through kind of an identity crisis, or like, yeah, kind of. Not an identity crisis, but like, they're like, oh, is this my purpose? And like, like, is this what I want to do in the long term? I don't feel like I should feel fulfilled, but this doesn't, something is off. And the other character that we follow is Moscap, which is a robot. And that robot's questions are like, what does humanity want from life? And each of them has kind of these questions that kind of they explore, and hence you also explore along with them. And it's like a slow and cozy reflective book. It's oh my god, it's so good. Okay, just you have to read it. That's all I have to say. The next question is a new release that I haven't yet read that I want to read. And I have two answers for this. One is called A Crane Among Wolves by June Her or Ho. This is a young adult fantasy. I'm not very sure about that, but like historical fantasy set in South Korea or Korea. I don't really know much about it, but I really want to read it. That's all. And the next book is The Sweet Sting of Salt. This is also kind of fantasy, but I might be wrong. But from what I read of the premise that I remember, I might be remembering wrong, but we're following this woman in this small town. It's somewhere historical. I don't even know. But, one of them is accused of being a witch, the other is pregnant, and they kind of just run away. And that's all I needed to know. Really want to read it. I really want to read both of them. The next question is my most anticipated release for a second I thought my neighbors are out there and they're gonna be able to listen to what I'm speaking, and that's just embarrassing because I'm speaking to myself. But I'm speaking to you, but they don't know that. Anyway, my most anticipated release for the next half of the year, and I have two for this. One is This Ravenous Fate. This is historical fantasy with vampires, and it's young adult. I believe it's also the first book in a series. Say less. I'm excited. The other one is The Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. I read her first book. I mean, the other book, I don't know if it's her first book, The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, earlier this year, and it was a delight. It was so much fun. So I'm excited for the next release of hers. So yeah, those are the two books on my radar that I'm super excited to read. The next question is my biggest disappointment of the year so far, and I have three answers for this. Two of them I have DNF'd and one I read. So, oh my god, this was one of my most anticipated releases. This is The God and the Gumiho, and I was so excited to read it. I swear, I was so excited. I got it within the first week of its release, and I started reading it, and it was easy to read, I'll give it that, but just the writing was just choppy. Like, it was very stilted. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. The characters got on my nerves. Our main character, Hani, most annoying main character I've ever seen. Got on my nerves so bad. Like, has no sense of self-reflection. She just says the most hurtful shit, and then she just moves on to kind of. And then when the other character is like, "No, you hurt me," and then she kind of doubles down. I'm getting ahead of myself. The premise is we have a god, a fallen god, and a gumiho. A gumiho is a nine-tailed fox from Korean mythology. So this is set in Korea, right? And we're following both of them, and they kind of go on this solving this mystery sort of a thing. And they obviously fall in love. But I didn't get that far. I read only 100 pages, and I could not. The author wanted you to remember what happened in 1888, and she did not miss out. She did not lose even a single opportunity to remind you of that. Like every time I'm like, we get it, we get it, we get it. We just don't have to say that many times. And also the main character, the guy, what is his name? Sokwa. He has green eyes. Okay, I get it. You don't have to repeat that so many times. That's unnecessary. And so, oh my god, what got on my nerves the most was Sokwa is the fallen god. And in sentences, just randomly, you could be like, Sokwa did this. No, she would be like, the fallen god did this. The god did this. The powerful god did something like that. Like constantly referring to him by his title. And even the female main character, she's a gumiho, and she'll be constantly referred to as the gumiho did this, the gumiho did that. I'm like, that just, I mean, that put me off. I don't know. I don't think it's the worst writing, but it just kind of, I didn't like it, and I was like, life is too short. I am not gonna, if I'm not enjoying it, I'm not gonna put myself through it. There was even a point where Honey and they behave like they're children. They behave like they're teenagers. They behave like they're 13, and they're supposed to be like hundreds of years old. They're like immortal beings that have lived for hundreds of years, and you behave like you're 13. It's so petty and annoying. That's just no. There was even a point where Honey and Sokwa have this staring contest for no reason. They're just petty like that, and they hate each other for no reason. And Sokwa's stare is described as a green glower, and it's from Honey's point of view. She says, "I glared at his green glower, and I don't know for what reason I laughed. I laughed at that. That was so funny. Like what? Like I glared at his green glower. I'm so sorry. Maybe I'm just being nitpicky. It's not that big of a deal. I'm sure it's great, but it just was not my thing. This was not what I was expecting, so I kind of put it down, and there was such a disappointment because I was so hyped for it. And just don't even get me started on. I mean, I already ranted, but like, I'm so mad about it. The other book that I DNF'd, I have a physical copy of it. Is Tomb of Sand by Geetanjali Shri. I have a hard time DNFing physical books because, they're pricey, but I just could not. This is over 700 pages. I have read till page 134 and nothing happened. And the writing is just meandering to lengths. Like it's just too much. I cannot get through it. There was a scene where there's like this party being organized, and our author goes into lengths listing down every food item, every dish that was available in that buffet. And I was like, we get it. It was an extensive buffet. It was an extensively, extravagantly organized party. Okay, fine, I get it. You don't have to name the 30 or like 40 individual dishes. Individual, you don't have to do that. Like, it's too, I said, I talked, I don't know, I said it in a previous video, I don't remember which one, but this is not written for the purpose of the story. Mainly, at least. It's mainly written to, relish in the beauty of language. And I mean, I like books that kind of meander a little bit, and there are like stories within stories, and it's like purple prose, and you don't really know what's going on, and nothing really goes on. But I do like such books. I liked The Starless Sea. Oftentimes, it's fun in fantasy, but okay, fine. Even in contemporary, like not fantasy, like our real world settings, it's fine. I do like some books like that, but there's just too much. It's too meandering. And I had made a decision to read to page 300 and then decide to DNF it or to continue it. I'm like, by the time I get to page 300, maybe it'll be fun. I had made that decision when I had gotten 100 pages into it, and then I read 30 more pages, and then I was like, no way. No. And it pains me because the premise sounds So good. And it's written by an Indian author in Hindi and it's translated into English. And I'm like, I want to read it. I want to read more Indian authors. I bought a physical copy. It just pains me, so I'm not going to be reading this. Um, yeah, I'm so sorry. I mean, I feel so bad. And the third disappointment that I had was a book that I actually finished. So maybe not that much of a disappointment, and that was Cackle by Rachel Harrison. I read this as a part of my Winter Wind readathon, so I ranted about it to lengths in that video. So I won't go into too much depth about it. It's just we're following this 30-year-old female main character, and she kind of feels lost in her life. She moves to this small town and she meets this another woman, and who seems like she doesn't seem normal. Like, does she have magic? Is she a witch? Like, why is it like what's going on? And and our main character is also recovering from the breakup of a very long-term relationship. I believe they had been together for 10 years by that point, but I think it's been like 6 months or something since the breakup. It's more like a coming of age, but when you're 30, kind of coming into your own power sort of a thing. But I don't think it was handled very well. I was the first part of it was very good, but then the second half of it was such a letdown, such a disappointment, hence why it's in this category. Yeah, it was. Yeah, moving on. The next question is my biggest surprise, and I have only one answer for this apparently, and I think actually I can even talk about the Monk and the Robot series for this because I didn't expect to love it this much. Like, that was so good. But I'm gonna go with The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. Of course, I buy books and I read books going into them, thinking I'm gonna like them. If I don't think I'm gonna like them, I'm not gonna even try reading them. So I obviously thought I would like this, but like, I didn't expect it to like it this much. I gave this 5 stars. A lot of my 5 stars, I feel like, are either books that I relate to or books that feel like they're written for me, or I just enjoyed so much. It was so cozy, it made me so happy, just for enjoyment purposes. This is not a book that you just happy enjoyment. No, this is not a happy book, and I don't relate to it at all. Like, the characters in this book have experiences very different from my own. So like, by just the first glance, it's not a book that I would give 5 stars to, but I would like it. That's why I started reading it in the first place. But it's a story that's so well told. Like, it's just the writing. I mean, it's not like beautiful writing, but like the way the story is told was everything. Was everything, and the story was so I don't know. Like, I can't really say anything other than it was so well told. Okay, in this we're following a pair of twins, and they both are from a black family, but they both are white passing. I guess that's what you would say. They're both white passing, and one of them chooses to live her life as a black woman. She marries a black man and has a black child, and the other one chooses to live as a white woman because they're both white passing, so she might as well live as a white woman. So she marries a white man and has a white child, and her new family doesn't know that she comes from a black family. And kind of, you're following, it's just heavy trigger warnings for racism and violence motivated by racism. The exploration of racism was just done from such an interesting point of view. I might not have the most accurate understanding of racism in the US because I am not from the US and I have never been to the US, and just this experience is very, very foreign to me, is what I'm saying. But it's just so well told. 100% would recommend. I would 100% read anything else Britt Bennett writes. It's just, it was, I was shook. 5 stars. The Vanishing Half. I didn't expect to like this book this much. It was that good. Moving on. The next question is my favorite new author, or an author that is new to me that I would consider them as a favorite. I mean, I could say Britt Bennett. I have read only one book. She was an author new to me before I read this, and I want to read. I think she has another novel called The Mothers. Want to read, definitely high up on my priority. And so I could say Britt Bennett. I could also say Miyako Kawakami for Breast and Eggs. But I want to also say Sayaka Murata. She was not an author new to me this year because I had read her other book, Convenience Store Woman, last year, and I read her book, Earthlings, this year, and both of these books were 5 stars. So like Sayaka Murata is at this point, I want to read everything she writes. My new favorite author. I will read anything she writes blindly. I don't know. Don't tell me what it's about. I'll just read it. Okay. Yes. That is my answer for that question. The next question is my fictional crush. I don't really have any fictional crushes when it comes to books. Yeah, even in like TV show. Well, okay, when it comes to TV shows or movies, I do have some fictional crushes, like Eugene. I mean Flynn Rider from Tangled. Moving on, my favorite character from the books that I've read so far. I have two for this. One is Mosscap from The Monk and the Robot. I keep talking about this series. You just have to read it, okay? It's very short. You have no excuse. But Mosscap. Oh my God, Mosscap. What did I, what do I even say? Mosscap is just. I love it. Like Mosscap, I love it. Okay, just love it. The other character I want to talk about is from this book, Cersei by Madeline Miller. Is Cersei herself. Oh my god. I thought Cersei's character was so interesting to follow. It was so lush. The character building, like the character was just so full fledged, like well developed. Like it's so juicy to read her character and her character growth. We're following Cersei, who is a Greek mythological witch, and she's the daughter of the sun god Helios. Yeah, she's banished to this distant island called it's AIAIA. So what do you call that? Ayaya. Anyway, and we're just following her. It's just following her journey. She initially, the starting of this is kind of a very naive little girl, essentially, even though she's like hundreds of years old at that point. And all she wants, you can tell very well, all she wants is validation, especially from her father, but anybody else would be fine. She wants validation. She wants to feel seen, like really seen and valued and cherished. And obviously they don't, because she's not the most prettiest, or she doesn't have the best voice, or she's not the most powerful. So in that world, she's not even seen, she's not respected, she's not even like valued. And once she is exiled to her own island, she essentially grows into her own power, and she discovers different, she starts developing different relationships with different mortals. And it's just so good. Like Cersei's character is just, oh my god, my favorite. You have to read this. It's so good. I mean, I was so intimidated by this. I mean, it's a popular book, but I was so intimidated because I don't know anything about Greek mythology. And I was like, what if I go into it and nothing makes sense and I just feel like a dum dum, But it was so easy to follow. Like, you don't have to know anything about Greek mythology to follow this. It was so good. Like, I think it's even better that I didn't know anything. So I didn't have any spoilers. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen, So it was really fun to follow. It was easy to read, but it's just such a lush character. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just so nice. It's so good to follow. I really loved Cersei's character. Yeah. Moving on. Next question is a book that made me cry, and can I choose anything other than this book? Because I don't think any book has made me cry this much. This is A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khalid Hosseini. This is set in Afghanistan during the time of. I am the worst at history, politics, geography, all sorts of stuff. The worst at it. And I didn't know anything about Afghanistan when I started this. My brother helped me to learn a little bit about Afghanistan. Like the history stuff, or like the political landscape of it, that is relevant to this book, because this book spans from you're following two main characters, Mariam and Leila. I don't even know what to say about it. My god, just just thinking about it makes me so sad. It's very traumatic. Very traumatic. I mean, make sure you check out the trigger warnings, because there, I'm sure, are a plethora of trigger warnings for this. I read this over a period of like 2 months. I mean, it will take a toll on you. I don't even know what to say. I'm just going to move on to the next question. I don't want to think about it for too long. I'm just in very stark contrast, the next book is a book that made me happy, and I have two answers for this. And I have the Witch Boy trilogy, which is like a graphic novel trilogy. You're following this boy who, in their society, girls are supposed to be witches and boys are supposed to be like warriors or stuff. I read it a long time ago. Don't quote me on that. And he wants to be a witch. So, you're following his journey, kind of breaking out of this restrictive social expectations. And yeah, you're following him and he makes friends and stuff. And it's very sweet, very cozy. The art style is so good. I read it in my Winter Wind readathon, so I kind of talked about it in that video, so I don't want to go into too much detail. I keep saying that again and again. Anyway, it's just so heartwarming, and it made me very happy. It made me very happy. I loved it. The other book is Kiki's Delivery Service. I read this in my 24-hour readathon, and this is you're following a witch, a young witch. She's, I think, 11. I don't know. She's very young, and she, at this age, is supposed to, essentially, in the witch culture, she's supposed to go to a different city and establish her witch business, or like witchiness in a new city. So she does that, and it's just cozy. It's cozy, a little bit of found family. It's so sweet. It's middle grade, and it's so fun. It's just it makes you so happy. It's short, a quick read. It's so sweet. That is Kiki's Delivery Service. I think there's a Ghibli or Ghibli. I don't know how to pronounce that, based on this, but I don't want to watch it because I don't want to. I don't want to change the experience of the book I have in my head. And sometimes I'm very picky about watching on-screen adaptations, because I'm like, I have this very specific idea of what went in that story, what went on in that story, and I don't want to have to change that. The next question is the most beautiful book that the original question is that I bought or received this year. I don't think, I do have some books that I think are pretty in the books that I have bought. I haven't received any, but I don't think there are any that I would be like, this is so beautiful. Like, I'm obsessed. They're pretty. I don't usually buy covers that I don't think are at least neutral, if not pretty. Like, I don't buy covers that I think are ugly. Even if I like the book, I will not buy. If I know that there is another version of it that is pretty or prettier, I will not buy this version, because I'm like, I'm gonna wait for me to come across that version. I'm not gonna buy this. I want my books to be at least neutral, if not pretty. So I think some of them. Okay, wait. If I had to choose from my physical books, I would say this is pretty. This is The Astonishing Color of After. This is pretty. Oh, I also like this one. I like the color combinations and like the New York skyline. Can you see that? These are not book covers that I'm obsessed with. So I changed the question. What is the prettiest book that I read this year? And I think that has to go to Cersei. I bought this last year, but I read it this year. And look at the cover. It's so pretty. If I had to choose other books, I would say I read Threads That Bind by Kika Hadzopoulou. Please correct me if I'm wrong. This is a fantasy novel based on Greek mythology. Oh my god, these Greek mythology retellings have. Threads That Bind is not like a retelling, but it just kind of draws from Greek mythology. And like I said, I know nothing of Greek mythology, so I did not pick up on any of the drawing from Greek mythology aspects. I just kind of read it purely as a fantasy set in a different world. That's it. Yeah, it's a young adult fantasy series. The second book came out recently, and I'm kind of scared to read because I don't want it to end. This cover, gorgeous. Oh my god. The colors, oh my god, the color is so gorgeous. The other book I have is Earthlings, but not the black version, but like the green, neon green version. I love it. The next question is, what are the books that I have to finish reading by the end of this year? And for this, I have my physical TBR. I want to read on my physical TBR. I want to focus on the books that have been here since last year. The end of last year. So I would say Sense and Sensibility. I don't know if you can see it. Sense and Sensibility. I already started it, if you can see, but I'm currently reading this. Sense and Sensibility. Anxious People. Yeah, those are the books that I had since last year. I also had Persuasion by Jane Austen and Wuthering Heights. Can you see that? You cannot see that, but I'm not gonna take them out. Also since last year, but I'm gonna take my time with classics, since I have Sense and Sensibility on my TBR anyway. So these two are kind of the oldest on my TBR. as of now. Oh, I also have The Namesake by Jhumpa Lahiri. I have it over there. Like I said, I also have The Namesake by Jhumpa Lahiri. So, like, these three are the oldest on my TBR, and I have to read these. Apart from that, I would say I want to finish the series that I've started. I read The Henna Artist last year, and I want to finish that series. It's called the Jaipur Trilogy. Also want to finish not finish, I want to get further into the Anne of Green Gables series. So I want to read Anne of Avonlea and Anne of the Island. Off the top of my head, I don't really think I have any other series that I'm focusing on, because I think the other series I have either started this year, so it's not like a backlog that I have from last year. Yeah. Okay, I also want to talk about. Okay, I wanted to show you stats. So, moving on to Storygraph, I have read 34 books so far. My most read moods are adventurous, emotional, mysterious, lighthearted, and dark. Apparently, most of the books that I read are medium paced, which is, I guess, normal. I have read a lot of shorter books this year, but most of my books are kind of average length, 300 to 499 pages. I have not read a single non-fiction this year. 100% of what I've read is fiction. And oh my god, this is very different from last year. My most read genres so far are fantasy, contemporary, LGBTQIA. Is LGBTQIA a genre? Or, like, you have books with LGBTQIA themes, but, like, is that a genre? I don't know. Young adult, literary, and middle grade. Yeah. Most of the books that I read are digital, and I have a good chunk of audiobooks as well. The most of the okay, I read 3 books from Molly Knox Ostertag. That is because of the Witch Boy trilogy. Becky Chambers because of the Monk and the Robot series, 2 books, and Stephanie Garber because I finished the Caraval series this year. I read the second and the third, Legendary and Finale. Yeah, it was fun. Oh, look at that graph. Yeah. Yeah, my average rating is 4.21. I do like most of the books that I read. I only go into them if I think I'm going to like them. How many books did I DNF this year? I DNF'd The City of Brass. I got like 100 pages into it, could not get into it. Maybe we'll come to it later. Maybe it's a soft DNF. And The God in the Gumiho. I got 100 pages in again, could not get into it. Maybe not as soft DNF. Maybe I just hard DNF. And then Rouge by Mona Awad. I don't know how much into this book I got, but I could not. Like, it was just, I could not get into it. This is more like a soft DNF. I do want to get back to it later. And also, Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I do want to get into this book, but just I picked it up at the wrong time. I was not feeling it, so I was like, I'm gonna read it at a time. I'm gonna read it at a time where I'm going to be able to enjoy it. That's all the books that I DNF. Yeah, that's my kind of mid-year check-in. Hope you enjoyed. What were your favorite books? What were your disappointing books? Answer them in the comments because I want to know. Thank you for watching and subscribing. Yeah, take care. I hope your help. I was about to say happy and healthy, and I kind of just mushed them into saying healthy. I hope you're happy and healthy. Bye bye.